After 2 years of chaos for COVID, schools have reopened for full face-to-face classes on September 5. But while COVID may be on the back burner this school year, there have been a plethora of new and recurring challenges. Hi, I'm Herman Green, and this is PTN Plus. Thanks for tuning in. Now, chief among the issues this year is a shortage of teachers for our classrooms. 248 teachers resigned between July and the end of August. Dozens of these were just before the start of September. Now, while we understand that several have taken up teaching jobs overseas, some have retired or just changed careers. So, what's the impact? Now, this was Education Minister Favour Williams on September 1.
Based on the information that we've been gathering, our schools will be in a good position to be opened for the start of school. Will everyone have all the teachers they desire on Monday morning, given that some teachers would have only resigned a week ago? No.
Now, in addition to the teacher shortage, there are also concerns about student relationship with new teachers, issues with parents finding or affording books, concerns about COVID-19, as well as monkeypox, and the recurring no school fee policy, which has been creating challenges for institutions. So are we adequately addressing these issues? To get a more objective view of this, we have a former high school principal who is now an education consultant as well as an author, Esther Tyson. Ms. Tyson, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Herman.
All right, good. Thanks for coming. Now, in light of the teacher issue, the teacher shortage that you have seen, do you think we're adequately addressing it with the measures the minister had outlined?
Well, I must say they have been placed in a very difficult position because every year, you have teachers moving on, either to private sector, retiring, resigning. I remember some years ago when I was in the principal post, there was the first time that in the early 2000 that the recruiting started from the US. I think I had a lovely cadre of young male teachers at Arden. And you know what they said to me? They said, Mrs. Tyson, we really would want to stay, but we want to start a family. And we cannot afford to have a family with the type of pay they're getting. And so they went off. That was the first time. And I think the only time when we had about 4 teachers resign at once. But we understand that this situation has worsened, really. And so the teachers have taken that option to go away. And the Minister of Education, she can't control that. So they have been placed in a very unusual and unprecedented situation. And the fact that they have had the Ministry of Finance agree that retired teachers can come back, that the teachers who are on leave, that they can be paid a second salary to come and try to fill the post. I think they're trying to do the very best in a very difficult situation in which they have been placed.
But you mentioned something just now. You said early 2000s. So that's
Yes.
almost 25 years this has been happening. This now feels like almost like an ad hoc approach. The last minute saying, hey, you can do this, you may do this. Do you think we have learned from the issues before, and are we addressing them now?
Well, first of all, you have a completely new set of persons who are in the hot seat, who are responsible. And so I do not think that there was a perception that there would be so many teachers who would be leaving. So in terms of preparation, you have to think on the spot. You really have to just, think innovatively to deal with the situation. So I was thinking when I heard the new measures of retired teachers being asked to come back, teachers on leave to come in to fill some posts, granted of understanding that those would only be short-term posts that the persons who are on leave would fill. I thought that they were trying to do the best with what they have, because I cannot think of, when you think about other countries, and it's a worldwide situation where you have all over the world. I've been reading that this same shortage is there. And of course, that's why they're pulling on our teachers. So there is no straight solution. There is no precedent that has been set to say this is how you must do this. So I would think that they're trying to do the best in the unprecedented situation in which they find themselves.
All right, you were a part of our town hall meeting the other day, the RGR doing a
Yes.
town hall meeting on back to school. And one of the issues
Yes.
that was raised there, one of the issues raised was that there's a concern about the relationship between students and new or inexperienced teachers. How much of an issue do you think that would be for our students who, most of them or some
Mm-hmm.
of them, would have fallen behind over the past 2 years
Yes.
of COVID? What's the impact
Yes.
there?
I think it has to do with the teachers. So the teachers would have to be prepared to deal with this situation. It's not a situation that they probably would have found themselves in, especially the new teachers coming from college. And it is difficult enough. They're coming into a new situation. They have had internship and all of that, but they have not taught in the classroom, the new ones coming out of college. So I think the powers that be, the principals, the administrators would have to do some orientation, some session to help them to understand how to deal with the students in the current situation because it is going to be difficult. And we understand from what has happened since school started back face to face that there are so many challenges that the children are having. I mean, you have the whole matter of the fights and the lack of understanding of respect for each other's space. You have all of these issues coming. You have, in terms of, they have lost some time in terms of catching up, in terms of their cognitive development and so on. So all of those things but they have to be taken into consideration. You hear about the over sexualization of the children on the campus at school. So there are just a number of things that they have to deal with. So I think that the principals, the administrators have to do another type of training to help those teachers to cope, and then to assign older teachers who are more experienced to mentor the young ones who are coming in. But of course, a lot of the more experienced ones have also gone. But I think we have enough that there's some type of mentorship can be put in place to help the young ones.
All right. Another issue that we pointed out earlier, we also pointed out at the town hall meeting, parents were concerned
Uh-huh.
about school books, the availability of school books. Up to this morning,
Yeah.
I heard one parent saying the books on the book list, they are simply not out there. So that's one issue, the issue of COVID-19, children going
Mm-hmm.
back into the classroom. Monkeypox is now an issue also. All of
Oh
these
boy.
together, how do you see, a former principal yourself, how do you see our school administrators actually addressing all of this?
Well, I can't say I know right across the board what is happening, but I imagine myself being in that situation, and you really to be very pressurizing, in terms of you have to have a good team in your school who is willing to work with you to put things in place, innovative ideas in place. One principal alone cannot manage all of that. It's quite a lot to deal with. So you need a good team to work with you.
All right. On a policy level, going back to the ministry, there's one thing that keeps recurring. The Andrew Holness administration, I think, a couple years ago, they
Uh-huh.
pointed to the no school fee policy.
Well,
Up to this year, he has reiterated that, saying, "Hey, if you cannot afford to
that's
pay, you
something
should."
I've never agreed with.
You've never agreed with it.
No,
Tell me what's
because
the challenge with it? Because I'll say this. Some
mhm,
administrators have said to us, call our news team, saying that on the ground, we can't run a school without money, and there's not sufficient money coming from the government.
exactly.
What do you think is the flaw with this policy, and how do you think we should address that?
Because I remember the time, Herman, when I was in the seat, there was a time where you had cost sharing. No, it was a lot of work to do it. But what you did was that parents who could afford, there was a check on the background. And so parents who could afford to pay a higher, amount of money, whatever, they would be asked to pay more. Then you have parents who couldn't afford it. Those parents were not pressured. Okay, I think that is a fairer way to deal with it because you have some schools, the ministry says it is optional. And for instance, I'm associated with Tarrant. And a lot of the parents, they can't afford to top up what the ministry has given to the school. And the point is, when I think about Tarrant, they need science labs and all of those things. They don't have the money to put that in, the ministry not putting that in, the parents can't afford. So and then we talk about equity. So how can we have equity when in the same secondary system we're having schools with different resources, lack of resources? The children are not given the opportunity then to achieve the same standards because they have different levels of resources. They're just not available. How does a Taron compete with Campion or Arden?
Right,
It,
right.
it,
I
it just
understand that
doesn't make
issue.
sense.
But what a fundamental issue that we have heard is that if I have something to give to you freely, and I say,
Uh-huh.
well, if you have $100, pay me $100, you're going to choose to take it freely. So the question is,
Yes.
at what point or how do you decide that parent A has to pay, but parent B can doesn't have to pay this amount?
There
How do you
was
really
a
set that up?
there was a system that the cop we used with cost sharing, and that worked fairly well.
So
It did.
those who you deemed able to pay, they paid willingly.
Most of them, a good percentage did.
Do you think that would actually work in today's economic environment?
Probably not because you see, our parents have gotten into their heads that it is free. So I so I don't know if how easy it is to would be to go back to that system. We probably would be getting a lot of pushback, but I think there can be education. The public can be educated to understand because one of the things we used to do at that time is that lay out to the parents exactly what the cost is of running the school. And so they would see what is it that the ministry gave us and what the shortfall is. And so they understood that if they want the school to maintain a certain standard, then they would really need to pay of the auxiliary fees.
Okay, I want to touch on a few more issues. You probably would have seen heading into this new school year, several other issues: road work, water issues,
Mhm.
a number of things that are affecting our students getting back to school from the first day of school on September 5. I don't know to
Yes.
what extent you've actually seen or taken note of it, but
Well, I
how do you
saw
advise parents and teachers, administrators to deal with these external issues affecting them?
well, I did see a clip yesterday about the roads in St. Thomas that they were talking about. And some years ago, I used to do work in schools around that area. And I know that it's a serious thing in terms of the condition of the road. So, for instance, when we were going out there, we would call the principals and say, can we come? Is it advisable? Are the students at school? Because we know, or we knew and still know, that once it starts raining heavily, that the roads become impassable. And so, of course, that affects the number of days the students are in school and would affect student outcomes. So those are reality. Then you have the whole matter of water not being available in the school. Principals have to pay a lot of money to have water trucked to the schools. Again, that's another cost. Okay, that's added
Right.
to the administrative cost of the school. So in some areas of Jamaica, the students are more disadvantaged than in certain urban areas. For instance, I remember in St. Mary, Port Maria, I think it's Port Maria Primary, when it rains, you literally cannot enter the schoolyard. You cannot enter because how the place is set up. It's totally flooded out. And if they're caught at school with the rain, then they have to move the children upstairs
Wow.
because downstairs is flooded out. And this happens quite a lot. So these are issues that need to be attended to. Every year we go and we have the same issues, and it's as if we do not learn.
Right. All right, we're just about have to wrap up now, but looking at all these issues, what do you think would be the number one issue that should be addressed and how you think it should be addressed?
That's a hard one because there are so many.
Teacher
But I,
shortage
I,
took the spotlight because of the numbers this year, but
Well, definitely that has to be attended to. So I'm really looking to hear, let us say at the end of the first month, end of September, what schools look like in terms of if you have adequate teachers in the classrooms or if there's still a shortfall. And what measures will be taken because you can just group students together to say they're covered, but then what is the quality of delivery that you're going to have with that type of situation. And of course, the attendant problem of classroom management, because if children are not socialized properly, they don't longer know how to relate to each other, then we're going to have that additional problem in the classroom. So it is going to be a challenge. And I think we have to see what happens by the end of the month, how things are working out.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. We'll have to wrap it up right there. That is
Okay.
Esther Tyson, former principal, and also she's now an author and an education consultant. Thank you very much for watching. This is PTN Plus.